Aquarius, from 2023 to 2043, you are stepping into one of the most profound and transformative chapters of your life. Pluto, the planet of power, obsession, control, death, and rebirth, has officially entered Aquarius for the first time in over 240 years. This means that your entire being, your awareness, your life will be broken down and rebuilt from the very roots. This is no longer about superficial or temporary changes. This is a true surgery of the soul, stripping away each old layer of skin, each protective shell, each outdated belief. Pluto will dig deep into the things you once denied, once feared, once tried to hide in the shadows of yourself. And as Pluto's light shines, every area of your life, love, career, finances, health, will be illuminated in its darkest corners. It forces you to face them with no escape, no avoidance. Yet in that very moment it grants you strength, the strength of rebirth, of a completely new version of yourself. Stronger, unshakable. When Pluto transits the first house of Aquarius, you will no longer be the you of the past. The transformation doesn't just come from how others see you. It begins with how you see yourself. The energy you radiate becomes different, stronger, at once magnetic and intimidating. You enter a time when your image, your role, your position in this world can no longer be a mask. In love, you become mysteriously magnetic, attracting others, not because of your outward appearance, but because of an intense inner pull, a gravitational force emanating from Pluto itself, the planet of obsession, desire, power, and fear. When Pluto resides in the first house, it doesn't just illuminate your outer image, it activates an invisible field around you, making others feel that you are both alluring and dangerous, both inviting and intimidating. That's because Pluto carries a magnetic field of secrets, of unspoken truths, of deeply buried emotions. And anyone who enters a relationship with you unconsciously feels they are being drawn into a complex psychological game where love and control intertwine, where love is no longer just an emotion, but a power to possess, to own, or to test. Those who are drawn to you often carry their own darkness, and they arrive as mirrors reflecting your own fears, obsessions, and unhealed parts. You may find yourself swept into a relationship where, from the very first moment, your heart races with desire while simultaneously tightening with unease. Someone who makes you feel small in their presence, makes you feel you need them to feel whole, makes you fear losing them even before they've truly become yours. A love that feels both destined and challenging. A place where every glance, every word, every silence is an unspoken psychological game. A relationship that makes you want to let go, yet unable to. The more you try to escape, the deeper you're pulled. The longer you stay, the more you feel lost inside your own emotional labyrinth. With Pluto in the first house, love is never gentle. It demands total surrender or fierce resistance, because Pluto does not accept half measures. And if you fail to recognize the lesson it brings, you will find yourself trapped in a cycle of love, control, destruction, rebirth, repeating over and over until you're willing to face the truth that love is not possession, but freedom. Be careful. Don't let Pluto turn love into a power struggle where no one truly wins, only wounds. Because Pluto does not come to take away your love. It comes to take away the illusion you've been calling love, so that you can love with a heart that is truly free, not controlling, not fearful, not possessive, not needing to prove itself. In your career, Pluto compels you to prove yourself, to build an image that cannot be shaken, not out of superficial ambition, but from an invisible obsession with being significant. Pluto in the first house makes it impossible for you to accept a mundane job or a dim role. You will feel driven to become a force, a symbol, an irreplaceable entity. This comes from Pluto's nature, the planet that governs hidden power, control, and the ongoing cycle of destruction, creation, recon. With this energy, many Aquarians will feel as if they must tear down their entire career foundation to be reborn, whether they are at their peak or have found stability. You might leave an old field to start your own business, or redefine yourself in a completely new role, where you are no longer a supporting character but the leader, the visionary, the one carrying the final responsibility. And because the first house is the birthplace of all action, Pluto here pushes you into feeling. Either transform completely or be rendered invisible by life itself. Whatever path you choose, your career journey at this moment will feel like climbing a mountain with an abyss below, where there's no way back, no place to hide, no return to old safety. Pluto allows no compromise. It won't let you live in a role. You are forced to dig deep into the core question: does this career truly reflect who I am? Or is it something I built to please others? And when you dare to face that question, you will activate your greatest career power. Not a power that comes from status, but a power born from truth and purpose. When it comes to finances, Pluto in the first house doesn't directly govern money, but it indirectly influences how you earn, spend, and confront your sense of self-worth. Pluto here ignites a quiet ambition, a desire to possess financial power. Not just to be wealthy, but to be autonomous, to not be manipulated, to not be controlled. For you, money is no longer just a number. It becomes a tool to prove your capability, a symbol that says, I am strong enough, I am worthy enough. Because of this, during this period, you may find yourself compelled to leap into bold decisions, risky ventures, or high-stakes fields, because Pluto always challenges you to die in order to be reborn. You might suddenly drain your savings to invest, leave a stable job to start a business, or pour everything you have into a high-risk project, as if an inner flame is urging you to bet it all. And if you fail, Pluto doesn't see it as a mistake, but as a ritual of purification, stripping away what no longer fits, forcing you to rebuild a stronger, more authentic foundation, no longer based on illusions. Depending on the position of Uranus, the ruling planet of Aquarius, and the aspects Pluto makes in your natal chart, this journey may be easier or harsher. But regardless, Pluto will not allow you to hold on to values that are no longer true. This is not a time for easy money or shortcuts, because any achievement without deep roots will soon be swept away by Pluto like a storm. Pluto reminds you money comes from inner value, not outer image. When you learn this lesson, when you dare to face the fear of loss, when you no longer cling to material things as your source of safety, that's when you open a sustainable flow of finances, no longer dependent on circumstances, no longer easily shaken by change. Because Pluto doesn't destroy your finances, Pluto only destroys the monetary values that no longer serve your soul. Your health is also challenged when Pluto is in the first house, not only shining its light on the physical body, but awakening the hidden shadows in your mind, the obsession with appearance, the fear of death, the feeling of never being good enough, never perfect enough. Pluto is like a surgical scalpel, cutting through each layer of perception, each false belief you've carried about your body, your worth, your existence. Every illness, every symptom is not merely a biological signal, but a message from the soul, urging you to look at the fear you've never dared to name. You might find yourself suddenly more sensitive to every ache, every little sign in your body, or becoming obsessed with your appearance, feeling as though your body is betraying you, worrying excessively about your health, as if your body is reflecting the silent anxieties within. Pluto reminds you, the body is a mirror of the mind. And depending on your natal chart, Pluto may trigger symptoms in the head, the nervous system, or body parts associated with your outer image, places where you once placed too much expectation or hid your fears. This is the time when you need to restructure yourself, not just on a physical level, but down to the roots of your spirit. Pluto does not accept surface-level healing. It forces you inward, makes you dig through every memory, every unhealed wound, every repressed emotion, so you can rebuild a new, stronger, truer foundation. Seek out yoga, meditation, or therapy, not to escape the pain, but to learn how to face it, to make peace with the darkness, because only when you embrace your shadow can you truly be whole. And that inner peace, that reconciliation, becomes the strongest armor you can wear when Pluto tests you with the storms of life. Pluto doesn't destroy your health. Pluto only destroys the illusions of outer strength to give you a deeper, truer strength that comes from within. And of course, how Pluto manifests its lesson, the degree of challenge you experience, will depend on the aspects and co-ruling planets in your individual chart. And as the first house closes its chapter of personal transformation, Pluto begins to shine its light on another territory, where values, money, and your sense of security are placed on the scales. We now step into the second house, where the lessons of finances and personal worth will define a journey no less intense. Before decoding the second house, let's look back. 2023 marked the beginning of Pluto's journey through Aquarius, a 2-decade transformation. It's been a year since the quiet flame of rebirth began burning inside you. Over this year, you've felt tremors, relationships ending, old beliefs shaking, dreams that once felt solid now distant. Pluto hasn't destroyed you. It's been peeling away each protective layer, each illusion, exposing the raw core where true strength waits. Now, after moving through the first house, where ego, self-image, and inner power were redefined, Pluto's light moves into the second house, the place where personal values, money, security, and beliefs about abundance face their greatest test. When Pluto enters the second house, it doesn't just challenge your wallet, it challenges your deepest belief. Am I worthy of having? Am I valuable enough to keep? Pluto doesn't care how much you have, it cares about your foundation. What is your sense of security built on? And when those walls collapse, you stand exposed in the storm, panicking, lost, unsure where to turn. That's when Pluto reveals another pain: shame, self-blame, doubt. You look in the mirror and ask, who am I without home, bank account, title, praise? You fear others seeing your failure. You fear seeing yourself with nothing left to admire. And in that fear you grip tighter, but the tighter you grip, the more slips away. The more you control, the more you lose control. Pluto in the second house doesn't tolerate pretense or dependency. It forces you to let go, to fall, to hit your deepest fear, until you see true value never lived in what you own. Every dollar earned in this time is a promise that you dared to face loss, dared to release control, dared to believe your worth comes not from what you hold, but from what no one can take inside. And when you learn that, when you stop fighting scarcity, stop proving yourself through numbers, you feel light as a feather. No more burden, no more fear. You walk freely, not to prove, not to own, but because you know. True security doesn't come from assets, but from inner steadiness. And Pluto gives you that gift, even if it costs everything you thought was yours. When you leave the second house, you're no longer someone who simply lost. You're someone who found themselves through loss. Ask yourself, if tomorrow you lost everything, money, status, recognition, would you still believe you're worthy of love? Would you still look in the mirror and see a whole human being, even with nothing left in your hands? True value has never lived in what you hold. It lives in what no one can take. And when you realize that, you're no longer the one who lost. You're the one who found. With a heart that's let go, hands no longer clenching, faith in your worth intact, you are no longer the same. And now, Pluto's light moves toward a new land, where love, partnership, marriage, the deepest bonds will be tested. The journey of transformation continues, leading you into the seventh house, where your closest relationships will mirror your soul. When Pluto enters the seventh house, its light shines directly on your closest relationships: love, marriage, partnership. This is no longer just your story. It's where your soul must face the mirror of its own darkness. The other person isn't just a lover or partner. They reflect the parts of you you once denied, feared, couldn't admit. Pluto doesn't come to keep you comfortable. It comes to shatter illusions, expose truths, pull you out of relationships built on control, dependency, power, or fear of loneliness. Sometimes, that exposure is so ruthless, you no longer recognize the person beside you, or yourself within that love. In love, Pluto in the seventh house brings intense, magnetic, obsessive relationships filled with power struggles. You're swept into connections so deep they feel inescapable. Love like addiction, closeness that hurts, distance that feels like dying. These relationships aren't here for comfort, but to teach. Love is letting go of control, not possessing. Love is accepting truth, not covering it with illusion. Pluto makes you face the raw truth. They didn't come to complete you, they came to strip away your last mask. In marriage, Pluto tests every commitment. Unions built on false safety, power dynamics, obligation, or fear may shake or collapse. But marriages that dare to transform and be reborn will grow stronger. Pluto doesn't destroy, it purifies, keeps what's real, sheds what's false. In work, Pluto shines on partners, collaborators, contracts. You may face betrayal, manipulation, power plays, where everyone wants the upper hand. This is where you learn boundaries, learn to say no, learn to see the core of every agreement. There's no room left for politeness or blindness. Pluto in the 7th house doesn't just test love or partnership. It tests your ability to trust, to share power, to risk relationship. Pluto teaches no one can save you, fill you, or take responsibility for you. Once you understand that, you stop seeking love as a lifeline. You seek love as freedom, reflection, companionship, not possession, not manipulation, not fear. You might wonder, do I have to pass the 2nd house to reach the 7th? Do I need to master self-worth before love? Love can come before, during, or after, but Pluto shows if you haven't learned self-worth, love becomes a test, an obsession, a power struggle. The 2nd house teaches self-worth. The 7th teaches bringing that worth into love. Without knowing your worth, you'll choose love from loneliness, proving needing someone to fill the emptiness. But once you've learned the 2nd house, you enter the 7th as a whole soul, needing no rescue, no possession, fearing no loss, loving as freedom, companionship, a mirror of truth. So ask yourself, do you love to share or to fill? Do you choose someone because they are who they are, or because they fill a void in you? When you step out of the 7th house, carrying the lessons of love, connection, and the reflection between two souls, Pluto doesn't stop there. Its light keeps moving, shining into new territory, no longer about love or relationships, but where you face the world, your status, your soul's mission. Even if the 10th house still lies ahead, Pluto is already making its way there, preparing to challenge you on a higher level, where you are no longer just a small individual, but a soul being called by purpose. This is a journey of preparation. There's no need to rush, just know that moment will come, and every step you take today is leading you there. When Pluto enters the 10th house, its light shines directly on the highest peak of your life chart, where career, reputation, social status, responsibility, and ambition are placed on the scales. This is no longer an inner battle or a private love story. This is where you face the world, society, and the legacy you wish to leave. Pluto doesn't hand you this summit easily. It asks, why are you climbing this mountain? For whom? For what? For ambition, for fear, or for a deeper calling? Pluto in the 10th house may bring major career upheavals. Losing a job, changing direction, the collapse of an image, a role, a position you once clung to. The things you once took pride in, once showcased for approval, may be stripped away overnight. But Pluto doesn't destroy to punish, it destroys to teach. Reputation is not you. Status is not you. Work is not your whole being. This is the moment only you can answer. What was I born to do? How do I want to be remembered? Do I dare leave comfort to follow a true calling? Pluto in the 10th house doesn't accept a good enough career. It demands a mission big enough for you to stand tall even as the world crumbles around you. You may feel lonely at the peak, burdened by responsibility, overwhelmed by expectations. But Pluto teaches, true power doesn't come from standing above others. It comes from daring to stand alone, to carry the responsibility of your soul, to live your truth even when no one sees, no one understands. Pluto doesn't take anything away. Pluto only takes what no longer belongs to you. Every mask that falls, every heavy armor you shed, every loss that feels like it could break you, is actually one step closer to the most authentic part of you. Because in the end, strength doesn't come from how much you can hold on to, but from how much you're willing to let go. And when you dare to let it all go, you are no longer the one who lost. You are the one who has found. If this journey has touched a corner of your soul, hit subscribe so we can continue walking together on the road ahead. And I want to ask you, on your own journey, which house are you in? House 1, House 2, House 7, or House 10? Share your story below. I and this whole community are here. Listen, and you know, this journey will unfold differently for each of us, faster or slower, depending on our unique birth chart. But whether early or late, whether easy or hard, the path is still the same. The path back to yourself.